I used to live in New York City for a while. One guest that came through with his girlfriend started out as being a normal bro, and we were all myself owner and 2 guests hanging out, drinking and talking. The night proceeds with him talking about how wealthy and successful he was, his 4 Navy SEAL tours, his workings with the gangs in the area, etc. At this point, I'm beginning to be skeptical of his stories because of how grandiose they all are. Towards the end of the night, he takes out a balaclava and announces that he has waterboarded people and was asking if either of us wanted to volunteer to be waterboarded. Needless to say, I found the first opportunity I could to get away from the party and go hide in my room and lock the door. Say goodbye to my loved ones. Landlord leaves at the same time, and everything was fine the first night. Second day was fine. He apologized for being weird from the night before, and we continued to talk about his successes and eventually got onto the topic of the JFK assassination, where he walked me through his theories on the whole thing. Using a fully rendered 3D simulation of the event, he then tries to tell me my landlord was trying to screw me over and that I shouldn't trust him. Turns out he was telling my landlord similar things about me, so that made us chuckle a little bit. That night, for whatever reason, I did not lock my door. I wake up in the middle of the night to this dude opening my door. He walks into my room, opens my closet, squats down, shuffles around my floor, and gets up and leaves. This whole time I'm not sure what to do, so I just kind of watch him with one eye open in case he comes towards me and I have to try and fight him off. A couple minutes later he comes back in, turns on my light, and just stares at me. At this point I realize he's sleepwalking because I yelled at him to get the fuck out of my room, and he just couldn't seem to react. But he did end up leaving, so I got up, closed the door, locked it, and tried to go to sleep. I get up the next day and immediately check my closet. Nothing trashed or missing, but I did find an open jar of mayonnaise. I determined this was the best case scenario, threw out the jar and finished getting ready for work. I come back from work to them cooking dinner. The apartment door, the stove in the kitchen, and my bedroom door are all within 5 feet of each other. This is important because I only had to take 2 steps from my apartment door to get into my bedroom. I got home from work at around 7 p.m. I didn't get into my bedroom until 11:30. The guests just kept talking to me. He's drunk and she's stoned on the couch. And I'm still freaked out from the night before, so I just try to not offend this dude, but get away when I can. After I finally got into my room, I close the door and lock it and just watch Netflix until about midnight when I hear the guests arguing. Didn't care to listen, so I just put my headphones in. 12:30. I hear him leave the apartment saying something about getting food, so I take this opportunity to go to the bathroom. I bump into the girlfriend, and she's been super kind the entire time and would apologize for him regularly. I tell her about the night before, and she apologizes again and explains how that's never happened before, but that he's also going through the loss of a family member, so that paired with being drunk probably caused the sleepwalking. I go to bed and wake up about an hour later to knocks on the door to the apartment and him crying. I just laid in my bed and said to myself, not my problem. His girlfriend lets him in and says, what the fuck? She keeps asking if he needs an ambulance. What happened? In between sobs and questions, I hear him say that he got in a fight with some local thugs and he got beat to shit and pistol whipped. Now I'm panicking that some guys followed him back to the apartment, and I just prayed that everything would be okay. I get up the next day expecting to find a bloodbath, only found a couple bloody paper towels, so I considered it a win. Luckily they were leaving that day, so I got out of the apartment as fast as possible so I didn't see them. I got to work and called my landlord, telling him everything from the night before. Apparently the guy had expressed interest in living there too, and he very quickly was told no. We arrived and entered the house by way of the provided code for the electronic door lock. We had stopped to pick up groceries and some needed refrigeration, so we carried those in first, which is when I discovered the fridge filled with food. Looked around and saw more food and personal items in the kitchen. Called out to no answer, so we walked around a bit. Imagine if you left your home for the day for work and a stranger walked in. This is exactly how it all appeared. Hurried back to the car, afraid we were going to get the cops called on us, and called the company, who reassured us and told us the house owner had said he was going to get things cleared up, which apparently hadn't happened. This seemed like something the company should have checked, but they assured us it was fine to just push things aside. In the process of clearing things away into a large closet, we found half-used bottles of cancer medications and some paperwork which indicated the owner had been being treated for a stage 4 cancer. Between these and other paperwork found in the house, we are fairly certain the owner had died and his children had the body transported back to where his wife was buried in a northern state. We guess they arranged to rent the place out without ever coming to clear his belongings. A couple years ago, my friend and I were traveling in the southeast USA because we were on spring break. The Airbnb we rented for the night turned out to be a couch in this guy's front room. In the middle of the night, these two people come in through the front door, drunk as hell, banging about, cursing, just overall being loud and obnoxious. They were not our Airbnb host and start talking in front of our bed. I was awake, as was my friend, but we were unsure of what they were doing or what they would do, so we didn't move. They left the house and came back a couple of times, creeping us out the entire time, and we didn't find out until the next morning that our host had been renting one of his guest rooms in the back of the house to them. Also, one of them ended up shitting on top of the toilet seat in the middle of the night. We got a full refund. I have a house that I rent out by the room only during the week. Back then, I would rent a room for one night and I have a 2-night minimum. A quiet, almost somber gentleman rented out the front room. I will call him Roger. He was about 30 to 35 years old. That matters. His profile indicated that he was lived in town or was from my town. As someone who lives in my town is a red flag to me. Especially after this. He showed up with a very young-looking man, was booked for only one person. And now my rules are that I insist of knowing the first name and age of every guest. Even visitors, even those not staying overnight. Well, I thought this young man was Roger's son, just visiting him. Maybe Roger was getting a divorce and needed a short-term rental, and his son was going to spend the day with him. But go home at night. I mean, the room only had a queen-sized bed and no place else to sleep. So the younger guy had to go home. Right? Well, later that night, I was over at the property with a few friends doing some painting outside. We came in and heard lots and lots of sexual noises coming from that room. At the time, we did have a nervous laugh, but when it went on for 3 hours, I got furious. So I knocked on his door and told Roger that his guest could not stay over. Roger and his guest slunk down the stairs, and yes, it was Roger and the young-looking man from earlier. He could have been over 18. But I never asked, but now I always do. And I no longer rent for one night.
I hope you enjoyed the video. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel for more updates. Thanks.